And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Don and Troy, the hardest working nobodies in Bitcoin and crypto. This is the Defion Productions podcast, episode number 73. It is the day before Valentine's Day. Hope you got all your chocolates and your candies for your sweet someones in your life. We're going to do the Bitcoin and crypto markets. We do have a giveaway that we're going to do in the first couple minutes of this podcast. Before we do that, quick check on the charts. Let's take a look at what we got going on in the crypto sphere. Looks like Bitcoin right now is sitting at 95,743, market cap of just under 1.9 trillion. Ethereum sitting at 2,640, XRP 244, Solana 191.89, and the total market cap of crypto at the current moment is at 3.17 trillion. Bitcoin dominance a shade under 60% at 59.9%. Bitcoin dominance continues to remain high. Fear and greed at 40. A little bit neutral, I guess, like right at the cusp of neutral. What are you thinking, Troy? What do you got for us?
Well, I'm confused on like we're kind of being in like a tug of war match because it seems like we're kind of in that similar range we were like back in March 2024. Like we'll go tap 20 or 98K, the higher end of the range, and then we'll immediately sell off and be at the lower end of the range. Currently, we're at the lower end of the range. We have some deviations below, but you did text me the other day, and you're like, dude, and I've never, as long as we've done this podcast, I don't think you've ever like texted me and said, I think Bitcoin's going lower. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if Bitcoin's going lower, these altcoins are already down 70, 80%. What does that mean for the altcoin market? Or do you think that Bitcoin dominance will go down with the price of Bitcoin and some of that money will rotate into utility coins and then we'll kickstart the start of an altcoin season? Because that's the first time you've ever said that. And as you can see, if you look at others with denominating in Bitcoin, you can see that we've had altcoin season in 2017, altcoin season in 2021, and right now we're just like dead right now. Like we're really at this crucial support right now where it's like, okay, like what's going on? Um, I'm not crazy worried. Like I said, like I do own Bitcoin and I do have some speculative alts, but what was your thought process behind like because you messaged me on Facebook
Mhm.
and you're like, dude, I think we're going lower.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of this week when I'm not with clients running appointments listening to spaces. I probably listen to more spaces this week than I have in the last couple of months. And guys that are much smarter than me are on these spaces and they're just talking about what they're seeing, how things are playing out both macroeconomically with the tariffs, with how the charts look, just a lot of different factors, especially with this big lull in the market, and then order books and stuff like that. Stuff that's definitely over my level of understanding because I don't trade. It's just a lot of people. The consensus just seems to be, which could also be dangerous because when everybody thinks one thing, Bitcoin will do the opposite. But it just seems to look like it's probably going to go down to the lower end of this range, which I think is around 92-ish or maybe 91.9. And it's going to, because it's tested it like 8 times during this like sideways motion. And it looks like it's going to break and it's going to break to the downside. And when it does, what the charts are showing, and again, I'm not a chart guy, I don't necessarily subscribe to them, but a lot of people seem to think so. Uh, High 70s, low 80s will be where it settles before it takes that next leg up, and it'll be a violent leg up from there, because being where we've been close to 100 for so long, the sentiment will definitely get really bad if we go down to like 78 or 79k, even at like 81 or 82k. It'll be quite the different sentiment, and then all of a sudden you'll just see all the big boys coming in buying, and then the thing will start to skyrocket, and then you'll see the FOMO again, and then that'll be the rocket ship that takes it up. But the reason why the real reason why I sent it to you, not so much because of the Bitcoin stuff, but like if we get that flush with Bitcoin, with dominance being so high, some of these altcoins are going to get smoked.
I don't know.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what I'm kind of interested to hear your take on what you think will happen with
I can't hear a word he's
did we lose Troy?
Yo, I'm here.
Can you hear me, Troy?
Yeah. You're
Can you
just
hear me?
breaking out a lot.
We're breaking up.
Yeah. Nope. We're good now.
Okay. I was just basically
So
talking.
when I'm looking at this chart, the Bitcoin dominance, what's up?
No, I was just I was kind of setting you up. I basically said what happens if we go down to the
This
high
is
70s, low 80s.
so this chart I'm looking at, the Bitcoin dominance chart, this altcoin season is just like a made up word. Like honestly, it all comes down to the Bitcoin dominance chart. And as you can see, I mean, I think this is like the capitulation, the top of this cycle. We hit like 64.14%. I mean, we're still pretty much higher, but we're looking for a breakdown on this chart, Bitcoin dominance, to signal, okay, like we're in altcoin season right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
And then if we look at 1/ETH Bitcoin, like this is Bitcoin. This is like the ETH Bitcoin inverse chart. It's like the ETH Bitcoin chart, but inverse. And you can see like this is just only going up. So do you think there's ever a world like you think everything will end to zero against Bitcoin?
You talking about eventually or this cycle?
Eventually.
Eventually, yes. Eventually, yes. I've been very adamant and
So
very
you think
consistent.
okay.
What do I think? You're asking a question.
Okay. Do you want to yeah, well, the internet here is absolutely just horrific. I even have an Ethernet cable, and I'm still having issues connecting with you. I do want to move on into the wheel of names,
Okay, jump into the
and you want to
giveaway.
explain a little bit about what's going on with this.
Yeah, I'll tee it up for you. So we're basically I can say me more than we, but I've been going at the PieCoin community for a while. I have a video. It's probably one of our most viewed shorts where I talk about the PieCoin being a scam. I made it almost a year ago. At that point in time, Pi was about 5 years into the experiment. There was no mainnet. There was no really good transparency in regards to the mainnet. There's a very, very large community of people in PieCoin, and unfortunately, many of these people are disillusioned to believe that this coin is going to overtake Bitcoin. There's even a community that believes it's going to be worth 314,000 plus a coin, which is just complete nonsense. The unfortunate part about this coin is that the large majority of the holders are in countries that are very impoverished that could definitely benefit from allocation to Bitcoin, a real coin, a real centralized coin. I'm sorry, a real decentralized coin instead of the centralized nature of Pi. Um, and so I've been going back and forth with people for a while, and one of the Pi accounts on X that's got like 3.6 million follows tweeted something, and I posted a screenshot of my balance, which I have. I mined Pi from like 2020 to 2021, and I mined up 1,200 and something coins that I have access to. Because even in the closed mainnet, you can move around coins to people that are inside the closed mainnet. So I could technically move coins to somebody that had a Pi account. So I thought, I don't really value this thing. I don't think it's going to be worth much. And there's obviously many people that do. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to give some of those coins away. And I honestly didn't think it would get as much of a response as it did. I just posted a screenshot of my balance and said, listen, if this thing gets 50 likes or more, anybody that comments under this tweet will be eligible to get 40 coins. I thought I'd give away 40 coins. Well, it got like 400 or something likes, and it got like 300 or so comments, but there were a lot of multiple comments and a lot of bot comments. It took me about 40 minutes last night to actually go through and try to get genuine people that were commenting. Anybody that was commenting I buy Pi or any of that nonsense, or even obvious bots, I didn't add them in. I think I came up with like 170-ish names. And that's what Troy's got on the screen right now. He's got a wheel. And what we're going to do right now is we are going to give away 40 Pi coins. We're going to pick the name of the person that I'm going to give away 40 Pi coins to. And ironically enough, the next day after this post, which was yesterday, I believe it was yesterday or Wednesday, maybe. Yesterday was Wednesday, Tuesday. The Pi founders finally were transparent and said that they're going to open the mainnet on the 20th. So the Pi coin is going to have an open mainnet on the 20th of February. Again, I don't know what that's going to mean, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to trade it yet. It has to get on an exchange if you want to sell it for fiat. But with an open mainnet, you're theoretically going to be able to, you should be able to exchange it for other tokens. I would imagine, Troy, you'd be able to speak better on how that all that shit works, because I'm just a Bitcoin maxi that doesn't understand shit coins. But I'm excited to get the opportunity to exchange the Pi coins that I do have into Bitcoin. Hopefully, I did see yesterday that OKX, an exchange that unfortunately we do not have access to in the United States, but there is worldwide access to other countries. So many of the people that do have Pi coin in these, other countries will have access, hopefully, I hope, to be able to port to OKX and get some liquidity and maybe be able to actually get some value from this coin. I stand adamant by my stance that this is a centralized coin. Nicholas and the Picoin team own an exorbitant supply amount. It's something like 20%. If the coin, there's supposed to be 100 billion coins, but not all 100 billion coins are going to migrate. So they have something like 20 billion of the 100 billion. So depending on how many migrate, there could be a very, very high percentage that is held by the Pi Core team that could obviously do whatever they want with them because of their coins. They could dump them, they could sell them, they could hold them. There's a lot of things that can happen, but to say that you know exactly what they're going to do would be disingenuous. So the fact that a team holds it, it's centralized. You have to KYC. If you don't, for people that don't know, let's know your customer. You have to give them, an identification to show that you're a real person for anti-money laundering laws. So you have to dox your data so they have your data. If you don't do that, you don't get access to the coins. That's all centralized shit that banks already do. So Pi is just another extension of a centralized system that already exists, and Bitcoin is the exact opposite of that. And I'll stand on that hill and I'll die on that hill. And I hope that people that are going to be getting access to this coin next week do the right thing and give themselves some liquidity, sell some of those coins, and get some Bitcoin with it. If you want to hold it and see what it does, God bless. We're going to do this giveaway in a second, and sometime later on today, I'm going to go back in that thread, and I'm going to private message the winner of this that commented on the thread and ask them for their wallet address and send them the 40 Pi, and then I'll go back in the thread and I'll show that I sent the Pi to that person. So, Troy, without further ado, if you wanna take the screen and do the giveaway, give away that 40 Pi to one lucky commenter. Go ahead.
How many times should I shuffle it?
Shuffle it 5. 5 is my lucky number. What's your lucky? Let's do this. What's your lucky number? Mine's 5. What's your lucky number? What number you like?
8.
8?
8.
Do 7 then. Do 7. 7 times.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Spin it.
Strong World.
Who got it?
Strong World.
Strong World. Okay, let me write that down so I can go back and give that to the winner. Congratulations, Strong World. If you watching this or watching it on playback, I will be going back on X later on today after we film, and I will private message you, and we will get you your 40 Pi coin. Let me just do that real quick. Strong World winner. Yeah. What do you think, Troy? Giving back to the community. All right. You want to jump into one of our topics? Troy, you there? Troy, hello. You want to pull him out, then pull him back in? Can you give me access? You back?
Yeah.
Yeah, we took you out, took you back in. Yeah, I was talking and you were frozen. He froze again. Yeah, just take him out. Can you give me access to where I can share my screen? Okay, let's jump in while we wait for Troy to try to get back in. I don't know. He's having some internet issues, so we'll just jump into our stories here. Um, Earlier this week, Chairman Jerome Powell of the Fed spoke before Congress, and he was grilled on some of his crypto stances, some of the things that he did during the last administration with crypto. He was asked specifically about how how the Fed treated banks that were dealing in the realm of customers that were crypto customers. And his quote was, "We don't want to get in the way of banks serving perfectly legal crypto customers as long as they understand the risks." That was what he testified before Congress. Me and Troy were talking about this 2 years ago. Cynthia Wood from Custodia Bank, she was trying to get her bank to be a crypto bank, and she was getting basically pushed back and stopped from the Fed and from the banking system from being allowed to be a bank that dealt specifically with crypto. She tried for a couple of years, and the Biden administration, the Jerome Powell Fed, nixed it. Never let her get through. Never let anything come of the fact that she was trying to do that. And then now you got Powell kind of doing an about face, a complete 180 on the stance of the Fed, on how he and they observe crypto customers and banks. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I've been listening to a lot of spaces the last couple of weeks. There are still United States customers today, even during the beginning of this Trump administration, that are having their accounts closed due to transactions either coming in or out of both Gemini and Coinbase. I know for a fact that this is still happening. These are people that are very trusted voices in the space that wouldn't just be saying this and making it up. I'm not going to throw their names out there. If you listen to Spaces on X, you'll hear it for yourself. It's still happening to people in this country, even today, where they are having accounts either frozen, they're getting emails asking them where the funds are coming from, why they're doing what they're doing, questions that they're getting that they're not getting for other types of transactions that they're doing. This is just specific to coming from crypto sites, so it's still happening. It's not as bad as it was during the Biden administration, but it's not completely fixed. And with Powell saying that, we're not trying to get in the way, and it's, perfectly legal crypto customers as long as they understand that, it's all bullshit. Like it's word salad, because this stuff still happens. Not all banks are on board, and it's still very dicey when you're dealing with and Troy, can you hear me now? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
You do more I just self custody. So I buy and I just self custody. So I'm not doing much bank to bank, like exchange to bank transactions. You are probably doing more of that than me. Are you running into any brick walls? Are you having any issues when you're doing your back and forth bank to exchange transactions with the bank that you use, or banks that you use?
No, I'm actually having no problems at all.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
And I mean, so I'll send like crypto to my exchange and I'll swap it for USD, and that's a taxable event. So that's showing income. But like, as far as like transferring the money and
hold on, stop. You're swapping to USD is a taxable event?
When I send Solana to my Coinbase account and swap it into US dollar.
I thought I misunderstood. I thought when you said you put money and bought US. Okay, never mind.
But as far as the bank I used, which is KeyBank, I haven't had any issues. But I know, like, I went to try to open up a Chase account, and they were like giving me issues with crypto and stuff. So, but my personal bank has not. Yeah, New York. Yep.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to jump on this next one, Rich? Can you see that, Troy?
Yeah.
The Bitcoin therapist. This is I got this one for you specifically, Troy, today, so we can talk about this. The secret to being successful in Bitcoin is buying the top with conviction, taking a 75% plunge into the pits of hell for 2 years, keep buying the whole time, and finally reemerge on the other side a completely changed person. Now, this is obviously talking about Bitcoin. Uh, if you don't know from
I
reading
don't see
Bitcoin therapists.
Bitcoin moving forward with all this institutional adoption and how mature this market is. I don't see it doing like a 75, 80% pullback. And I also heard something that the 4-year cycle is broken. I think this is just going to trend as a TradFi asset because it looks like every time we get a CPI number, every time we get Fed Jerome Powell speaking, like it really does make the markets react significantly. So, and you've been in this space much longer than I have. Was it always like that? Like in 2014, 15, 16, was this trading like based on TradFi news? Or is it
No,
just his own?
no, that started happening. That started happening in the recent like last cycle to this cycle
Okay.
because of the more acceptance from TradFi and more mainstream adoption. It's just the fact that there's more liquidity in the markets. I mean, back in the 2013, 2017 cycles, there just wasn't enough. Like you were talking about, like tens of billions of dollars in the entire market. It wasn't correlated in the same sort of respects. Probably since the GameStop stuff during COVID and AMC stuff, where you've seen those types of like meme trading, where things have kind of been a little bit more correlated since then. And now you have a bigger market cap. I mean, it's still in the grand scheme of things very, very putrid compared to the rest of global markets, but it's more of a new phenomenon. I would push back a little bit on because again, the spaces that I'm listening to are kind of reiterating what you're saying, that the 4-year cycle is dead. I would only push back on that by saying that we are at a place in the regular cycle that we can't make that call yet, because we're still doing what we've typically done in terms of Bitcoin, because that's the 4-year cycles really. I mean, when you talk about the 4-year cycles, you're talking about Bitcoin. Altcoins just come along for the ride. When you say 4-year cycles, it's because the 4-year halving of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the reason for that. Let's just get that straight. So we're talking about Bitcoin, and right now Bitcoin is not doing anything that's deviating standard deviation wise from what it's done in the past at February of this point in the cycle. If you remember in 2021, it was like March, April where we had that big run up to the new all-time high. So we could still do that. We could still have another new all-time high. We could hit 125 or 130 by March, and it would be kind of in line with, what we've kind of done in the past. We can't start having that conversation until 2026. That's when we can start having the conversation. We can speculate, but anybody that's saying that they believe that it's dead is just not accurate, in my opinion. The only thing that's different is how high dominance has become. So that may be an indicator that Bitcoin dominance is so high and alts have lagged and underperformed for the most part. That part could be like a potential warning sign, but just buying into the narrative that the 4-year cycle is dead, I don't do that yet.
Yeah. What would you say if I said that each halving event is less relevant? Like every 4-year halving we have, the Bitcoin halving becomes less relevant every 4 years. And what if I
Why
had a
would
chart to show you that?
why would you make that statement? Just based on a chart, you'd make that statement?
Based on a chart, you can see the Bitcoin supply and block subsidy per year. And in 2001, it had a dramatic impact on
2001 it didn't 2001 it didn't exist. You mean 21?
or 2011.
Yeah.
And then 2000, I think 16 was it, and then 2020. So there, I can't pull it up because I'm sharing my screen. But every 4-year halving event, because the 2024 update, it is known that monetary liquidity is a primary driver of Bitcoin, not macroeconomic growth. So monetary liquidity is the amount of money printed by central banks around the world, the public sector, plus the ability for loans to be made from shadow banking, the private sector. So and you told me, and you even backed this up. You said, as long as we keep printing, Bitcoin will keep going up.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah. This is a cool chart right here too. Almost every U.S. state has now proposed some form of Bitcoin bill If enacted, they could drive 23 billion in buying pressure. Imagine being bearish on Bitcoin. Shout out Miles. But you can see down here, these are the states, these are the bills. But you can see it's pretty much the whole U.S. is proposing for some form of Bitcoin bill. So that's good to see. That's some good buying pressure going into
To
this space.
to be fair though, because
Mhm.
I've done some I like again I've talked about him on our podcast a couple times before. Justin Beckler, really good follow. He's really dug into a lot of these bills, and a majority, if not all of these bills, reference digital assets. They don't talk about Bitcoin as being a strategic reserve in the sense of like they're just going to have Bitcoin. It's going to be like the reserve asset of the state. Like these bills are not being designed in that way. They're being advertised, and the narrative is being proposed as such. And the other thing too is many of these states, the bills are being proposed. They may have even passed one side, but they haven't passed the Senate, or they haven't been put forth on the desk of a governor. So this has been going on for months, and not one of them is officially passed. So I
Mhm.
feel at this point it's very narrative driven than actually coming to fruition. And I've already told you how I feel about the strategic reserve of the U.S. I don't think it's ever going to happen, nor do I think it would be in the best interest of the United States to do so. In terms of what their goals and objectives are, not in terms of what we think would be good, but in terms of what the ideals and objectives of the United States are, it doesn't align with those, and therefore I don't believe it will happen.
Did you? I'm sharing my screen right now. It's not popping up. Did you send this to me? Just are you flicking me off with my shit
No,
coins? Look at the
let me go to
chart. It
that.
looks like a middle finger.
Yeah,
So
I
this
mean
says
that's I mean shitcoins are temporary, Bitcoin is permanent. Like look at that. That's a if you look at Bitcoin, what it does, like that, like that's what it gradually goes up forever. Shitcoins do nothing, go parabolic, and then go back to doing nothing. I mean,
yeah.
I don't see the lies in that.
We're,
That's basically what
well,
they do.
I talked about this last podcast. Over 100 million coins have been created this cycle,
Hmm.
and we're in a diluted market. It's very saturated, and it's very player versus player. It's a rotational market. You have to be front running the narrative and then be ready to sell your bag and move on to the next narrative, which is tough because it's like game theory. Like you have to be like you're competing against the other degens in this space, and these like for example, meme coins, like the meme coin markets are down 90%. Like for them to go back to its all-time high, like it's got to be like 7, 8, 900% for them to go back to its all-time high. So my theory is, and I could be wrong, when we do have our next leg up on Bitcoin, I think when we look back at meme coins, I do think most of them topped out. I do. Maybe not Doge, maybe Pepe, but most of them on Solana, 99% of them are dead. As you can see, we had like the jail stool with David Portnoy come out. We have
Oh
every
Christ.
influencer, every celebrity, the baby, all these players just releasing a token with no understanding of like tokenomics, distribution, like any of this. Obviously they have someone that's coaching, consulting them, but I don't think it's sustainable, right? So I think this next leg up, personally, will be into more utility, like fundamental driven coins that actually like create cash flow. Ethereum, in my argument, creates cash flow. We just got staking approved for the ETFs, which Gary Gensler was, he approved the ETF for Ethereum, but he didn't approve the staking. And even when we did get that news yesterday, Ethereum pumped, but it completely retraced its move. So it's kind of frustrating seeing like all this good news and the price is just completely retracing. And that's showing like bearish, like we're in a bearish trend right now. We're in a mean reverting market. And I'm sitting on my hands until we start showing, the next leg up, the expansion period. But I think the altcoins that are going to move are the ones like the DeFi coins that haven't done anything. Like all the attention, all the spotlight has been on these meme coins, and I think people are sick of losing money. That when things do turn around, or the people that have stables or cash on the side, they're going to be deploying that. They're going to hopefully they've learned from the lesson, and they're going to be deploying that into fundamental value driven coins, not some shit coin, not some meme coin. And I think that's going to be the start of the altcoin season, because that market, the utility market, is much bigger than the meme coin market. So I think that will show a lot more growth than the meme coins. I think the meme coins, the bubble already popped. I think, you know what I mean? Kind of like, I just think like people are sick of losing money on meme coins. Everyone I know that gambles on meme coin loses money. Or if they do make money, they lose it. They give it the profits right back. So that's where I think we are in this market. I think the market's going to extend the bull runs. We're still in the bull run. Like if you look at the chart, like we're still on a positive trend. We're still above our 200-day moving average. Like things are still moving up, but I think like it's not going to be easy to make money this next leg up, and it's going to be very rotational. So, but I do see a lot of sentiment on social media that I'll take profits next time, or I'll take profits like when we go up. I just want to be a Bitcoin maxi. I just want to be a Bitcoin maxi. Do you see that? Because people are getting fed up with these shit coins.
I don't want to. I don't want to be. I don't want to be. I don't want to sound like a dick, and I want to stay humble. So I don't want this to come off in the wrong manner, the wrong fashion. But there's been a lot of things I've said on this podcast before they've actually been seen to everybody else that have been pretty spot on. And you just kind of talked about meme coins, and you, if you remember, about a year and a half.
Hold on, you're picking up.
Maybe 18 months ago, I was talking about how meme coins were a net negative for crypto and for our space. And that I thought, you were like, oh, it's gonna onboard people, it's gonna get people, excuse me, it's gonna get people to get involved in crypto. They're gonna mess around with meme coins. It's good. It's gonna get exposure. And I was like, dude, this is bad. Meme coins are not a good thing. It's gonna have people come in. We lost Troy. I'll keep the thought going. It's going to have people that are going to come in, they're going to lose money, kind of like what Troy just said, where he said, almost everybody he knows loses money on meme coins. They've either, made a little bit and gave it back, or just straight up lost money. And instead of people sticking around, they end up leaving the space. And instead of buying Bitcoin, studying Bitcoin, learning Bitcoin, and becoming holders of the greatest asset that we've ever seen, they leave our space. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see that these meme coins are knocking people out, instead of, what Troy kind of was saying when we had this conversation 18 months ago, where he was thinking it was going to be a net positive. And I said back then, meme coins will be a net negative. It's going to knock people out of this ecosystem. It's not going to onboard them. It's not going to make them motivated to want to be here. It's not going to be, oh, well, I put a little money in, this fart coin or shit coin or Joe Biden or Donald Trump, whatever those bullshit coins were. They're going to lose their money and then be motivated to stay. No, dude, it's been a net negative, and we're seeing it play out. The dominance for Bitcoin is super high. These meme coins are a dime a dozen. People are losing money on it. They're not even going en masse to the other alts. It's either Bitcoin or nothing for these people. They're either buying some Bitcoin or they're exiting the system. That's what's happening. That's what meme coins have done. And to finish my thought from what you said earlier, I'm extremely interested to see what Ethereum does on the next big leg up on Bitcoin. I think that's going to be extremely telling what Ethereum does, because Ethereum has extremely underperformed this cycle. If Bitcoin does a 25 or 30% move and ETH doesn't do more than 5 or 6%, we might have to start having a conversation about, is that a dead man walking chain, which I've kind of already thinking, but I think it'll be a real conversation.
What do you think?
We can... ETH? Go ahead. Yeah, I'm saying like on Bitcoin's next leg up, if Bitcoin has a 30% move to the upside and ETH moves like 5 or 6% or less, what are we saying about ETH?
I think ETH is gonna freaking moon next leg up.
Why? What's your thesis on that?
Because it's the number one chain for institutional settlement for stable coins. You're breaking up. All right. Do you hear me?
I can hear you.
It's the second largest crypto by market cap. Yeah, it's the second largest crypto by market cap. We have World Liberty Fi, which is Trump's DeFi, buying a shit ton of ETH.
It's irrelevant.
And I just feel like this is the most decentralized chain. Like you think like Solana decentralized? It's not centralized. Solana has crazy inflation. I
Wait,
know ETH is inflation
Ethereum
is
is not
higher.
these. The Ethereum is not. You can't make that statement. The Ethereum is not decentralized. That's an awful statement. You can't stand on that hill. I won't let you. I love you too
No,
much to let you make that
it's
statement.
it's more decentralized than Solana, and I feel that the ETH market, like it's just the sentiment's slowly shifting. Like people are rooting for ETH now. Before it was like they want ETH to die, whatever. But now it's like people are realizing like there's going to be no altcoin season without ETH. If ETH dies, everything dies besides Bitcoin because
Hmm.
that's completely separate from
That's a
crypto.
good take. That's a good take that we can
If
talk about.
if ETH dies, everything dies.
Ooh, wow. That's a bold statement.
Ooh,
That's a bold
which
statement.
I really hope. Well, it's true because a lot of these coins are built on the Ethereum network. So if Ethereum dies, all these coins die.
I
All these coins
honest
die.
again
I don't think it's going to die though.
from all the spaces that I've been on, I feel like I hear when somebody's a maxi that's not a Bitcoin maxi, it used to be like Bitcoin maxi, Ethereum maxi, like for years that's what it was. I feel like there's a lot more Solana maxis now than there are Ethereum maxis. I feel like most people are way more bullish Sol than they are ETH. What say
I,
you?
this is I can't.
Can you hear me? Yeah, pull them out. Yeah, I don't know. It's not working. It's not working. I would love to continue to have this conversation because Troy is slowly converting from a shitcoiner to a converted Bitcoin maxi. I'd love to hear, where he's at in regards to these alternative coins and the
I,
sentiment of Solana being better than ETH. Can you hear me now? Yeah, just keep. It's not going to work. We'll have to keep them out. We can't keep going back and forth. We're wasting too much time at this point. Can you let me share the screen? All right, we're going to go to this here. This is the Kobayashi letter. It is a X account. They posted this. Today's the 13th, right? So they posted this yesterday morning. The Fed's worst nightmare just got worse because the CPI numbers were released yesterday, and this was a nice little thread on the CPI numbers, breaking it down a little bit. CPI inflation just officially jumped 0.5% in 1 month, the largest increase since August of 2023. Core CPI inflation was expected to fall to 3.1%, but instead rose to 3.3%. What does this mean? Let us explain. Let me get into the thread. Oh, damn it. I'm gonna have to log in. Yeah, I can't log in. That's not gonna work. Wow, we're having a lot of technical difficulties here. So let's just talk. Let's just talk about that instead of jumping in. Did you see yesterday, Rich? The CPI numbers, and did you hear any mainstream media talk about it?
Not really. I mean, I looked at it like, I didn't really spend a lot of time. I happened to see the post, but that was about it.
Yeah, I was listening to a Spaces in the morning. Mario Narfal has a really good like finance-based space. They talk just macro politics. They talk macro finance. They talk just regular finance. And there's a couple of Bitcoiners that are on the stage a lot too. It's a really good podcast, really good spaces. It's from like 8 o'clock in the morning until about 9:15 every morning. So as I'm getting ready, I'll listen to it. And they as the numbers were given live, they were on the stage and they were kind of breaking it down as it was going. But the numbers were, for the first time in a while, actually much. Usually you'll see like it might be like a tenth of a point higher, or it'll come in line. And some people thought it was going to be a little bit. This was the first one that was significantly more than people expected. Half percentage point jump in a month is a lot. It's a pretty big jump. And as the stats show, it's the largest in over a year and a half, and it's showing that the Fed really got this wrong, like from start to finish. They waited too long to lower. I'm sorry, they waited too long to raise rates, and they waited too long to lower rates. And as a result, we're not I mean, people think that we're getting the soft landing, and it just, the data is just showing that we're really not. And the other thing too that ends up happening is, like, we get these job numbers that get released and then they keep getting revised. So now we're seeing a lot of these numbers we were given at the end of the Biden administration are actually coming in different and worse than they were when we originally got them. And and to be transparent, that happens often. Like, you'll get a jobs number, and then 2 or 3 months later they'll revise it. Like, that's normal for them to be revised. It's just kind of like they put the numbers together and they give you what they think they are, and then later on they go back and they look.
Right.
But these numbers are getting revised with, like, large gaps. And it's showing a picture that's much worse than what we actually thought in the beginning. And the other thing that's kind of crazy too is, the longer that this, like, drags out, the optics are going to be like, if we're 2 or 3 months down the road getting these bad inflation numbers, Trump is going to be getting blamed for things that happened, because everything lags. All the indicators lag. So all the stuff.
Every president,
yeah,
either inherits the previous person's stuff, and the time that it takes for these things it's not quick. Nothing's ever quick. Like, so if I'm president and I enact a policy, it might take 6 months to a year and a half for it to actually show up. Like, it happens. Like, and it's funny because it's happened to multiple presidents. Like, this person will get credit for that. This person will get credit for that. And there are certainly definitely things that the president does, but I think most of them don't happen quickly. It doesn't seem like anything can happen that quickly, especially maybe something like, I don't know, even like gas prices. There's very little the president can do quickly to unless it's a stock market thing and it causes the price to change because of the Wall Street reacting. If it's not, the prices aren't going to go up or down unless it's because Wall Street reacted. It's not going to happen because supply and demand doesn't happen overnight. So if the president releases like strategic oil reserves or something, it doesn't mean that the gas prices are going to go down tomorrow. It's going to take several months for that gas to end up in the supply chain. Like, that's just kind of one of those things. So yeah, like I feel like it's like even like yesterday, the Super Bowl number, like, viewership numbers get released, and then that'll change. Like, that's not, they don't know.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have a monitor. They don't have the ability to monitor exactly how. It's all based on estimates, based on Nielsen ratings and phone interviews and equipment that they put out there. It's all estimate. They do not have solid numbers on that. Anybody thinks that X people were watching the Super Bowl and turned it on or turned it off at the halftime show, that's all speculation. There is no hard data on any of that. That's just the way data works.
I got into my X if you want to give me back to the screen.
Kind of killing time there,
yeah, good job. I logged in. It was good. So here's the rest of that Kobayashi letter article. I can kind of get more in depth into what he was posting in the thoughts. This was the hottest inflation report that we had since 2023. Headline CPI inflation was expected to remain flat at 2.9%, while core CPI inflation was expected to fall to 3.1%. Instead, inflation posted a large jump and hit 6+ month highs. This has huge implications, and you can kind of see in the chart here all the numbers of what they actually were. The forecast 0.3, actual 0.4, 3.1 on core, 3.3, 2.9 on year over year, it's 3.0, and then the CPI month over month, 0.3 to 0.5, and it gets even worse. Headline CPI rose by 0.5% month over month above expectations of 0.3. This marks the first 0.5 point increase since August of 2023. Not even the early 2024 rebound in inflation saw CPI jump by more than this much month over month. 5 days ago, we posted this chart showing surging inflation expectations. U.S. consumers' 12-month inflation expectations are up to 4.3%, the highest since November of 23. This marks a 1.7% jump over the last 3 months, the largest surge since February of 2020. On Friday, we posted the below alert for our premium members. We had building a short position in TLT over the past 2 weeks. Today, TLT broke below $88, and that's just kind of showing you like how how to play all that stuff. And then the month-over-month increase in CPI is more concerning. Chart via zero hedge. Not only was a 0.4% above expectations of 0.3, but it doubled from the 0.2% seen in December. This data has yet to reflect the effects of newly established tariffs on China and others. And there's a lot of debate. What do these tariffs do? Are these tariffs going to be inflationary? If they are, then we got more inflation coming at us. The data officially puts the 10-year note yield back above 4.6. This is 20 basis points above the low seen just a few days ago. Such a sharp move higher in the bond market emphasizes just how hot the inflation data was. So what about Fed cut rate expectations? This chart is wild. After the data, the market now sees one rate cut this year in October of 2025. From there, the market does not see another a rate case until December of 2026. That's big. These are what the markets predict. The markets are usually pretty accurate, Rich. So these people that are sitting in these 7% mortgages that have been like waiting for the market to change so they can like get out of these big mortgages and potentially buy, a different house, afford, like a whole generation of kids that can't afford housing right now are sitting here waiting for the market to change. And we're getting data that's showing that it's going to get worse, not better. And from there, the market does not see another rate case until December 2026. The market effectively sees higher rates for years to come amid the recent data shifts. And if you take a look, here's all the forecasts from March of 2025 all the way to October of 2026. And here's the data here and all the percentages of probabilities of where it will be. And right now we're at 400 to 425 basis points. It's basically going to be.
What are they predicting by the end of the year interest rates would be at? What are they predicting?
One cut. It's saying one cut in October. So October is what? We're in about 7 months away. So you got 7 months of rates staying where they're at and then getting probably a 25 basis point cut in October and then nothing until December of 26. So another 14 months of whatever that. So basically for the next 2 years, 25 basis point cut. So if you're sitting in a 7% mortgage hoping that it's going to go down, you're probably not going to be much different because as we've seen, the real crazy part is when they lowered rates the last time, rates actually in mortgages went up, not down. It's pretty, as the years start ticking away, Rich, this is the thing that gets really scary to people that like study markets and study finance. You have a whole generation of people right now that are renting that can't afford to buy a house, and we're just dragging this thing out.
Yep. And that's my question is this. How much of this do you think is artificially generated, or is it really the market? Is it like I don't have a lot of faith in these institutions that they're doing right by.
I have zero faith in these institutions.
So
the counter argument.
I'm not saying that interest rates shouldn't exist.
No, I know.
I'm just saying that
I know.
I feel like it's gouging. Like that's the best way. It's price gouging. Like that's the best analogy I can come up with.
The counter argument to this. Inflation and you hear people say in the 70s and you can remember this probably a little bit, inflation was what you had inflation rates that you can go to the bank and get like 16% on your money in a CD, whatever, like where it's like 7% is much less than that 17 or 16 that we saw in the 70s.
Right.
The problem with that argument, debt to GDP was about 30% then.
Right.
Debt to GDP now is 120%. Wages were much different,
right,
correlated to interest rates back then. Today, those dynamics and those numbers are so out of whack that 7% rates hit way different than 17% rates hit in the 70s. So it's not a good correlation. You can't make that argument.
That even those rates were, because nothing cost anything. So that was a way for banks and those institutions to make money back then by having interest rates. It was worth to have this artificial inflated interest rates even in the 70s. And a lot of it was because the uncertainty because we had left the gold system and all that stuff. So there was a lot of changes, and then you had the oil prices, and there were so many crazy things going on. I don't think we had good modeling for the economy back then, and that's why the one article I read the one time was that, it was 17%, but it probably shouldn't have been. A lot of it was artificially inflated because Oh, we got this problem because of gas. Oh, we got this problem because we're off the gold standard. And even those rates. But again, nothing cost anything. It's like back then, if an employer would give away health care to his employees for free because health care costs nothing, and then his health care has gone up significantly over the years, it's almost been like, like a lot of municipalities have would built in free health care for their workers, and it took them a long time to realize how much that was costing, and now that's why they've had to renegotiate a lot of contracts. But in the beginning, healthcare didn't cost anything, so it was an easy giveaway. Now it's expensive, so it's a lot of those kinds of things that have kind of screwed up the market to some extent.
I got another thing to share too. If you want to
You
give
have a
this,
question on there, by the way.
what is it? I can't. It's kind of far away.
Where can I buy XA17Y token?
No idea. I don't even know what the hell that is.
Okay.
I don't shitcoin. If Troy was on, maybe he could tell you. Bitcoin only. Let me share my screen. You were talking about gold a little bit. Something wild's been happening the last couple of months in gold. I don't know if you've noticed, but gold's at an all-time high. It's trading close to 3,000 an ounce. So Kobayashi letter again, another good follow. Posted this as well. Physical gold buying has gone apocalyptic. Gold inventories in the three largest COMEX gold vaults just surged by 15 million ounces in 2 months. That's a 115% increase, putting physical gold holdings above 2020 pandemic levels. What is happening? Let us explain. For some background, these are secure gold storage facilities approved by the Commodity Exchange, which is the COMEX. They are literally located under and around Manhattan, New York. January alone saw 19,000+ contracts delivered. Never in history have we seen buying like this. So if you look at the gold delivery charts, you'll see all the previous months, and then you'll just see 2025 January went absolutely parabolic. Look at that. Look at that chart. That went absolutely parabolic. COMEX is a subsidiary of CME Group, which publishes data daily on these vaults. They outline total registered pledge and eligible inventories by the ounce. As seen in the below Excel chart, combined totals just hit 35.5 million troy ounces. What is happening here? And it even gets more strange. As COMEX inventories surge, London vault inventories are being depleted. Withdrawal times in London are rising towards 8 weeks. Meanwhile, the U.S. has switched from being a net gold exporter to a net gold importer in November 2024. Clearly, U.S. gold markets and physical gold demand is signaling a major pivot from the norm. Gold prices are now up 40% in 12 months as the U.S. dollar and interest rates are up sharply. Not even a 10% pullback seems to be attainable. This has never happened in history. So gold is making some serious moves. With Bitcoin being gold 2.0, it's going to be it's going to be fascinating to see how all this stuff plays out. Why is the U.S. buying so much gold? Especially with a administration that is so pro Bitcoin and pro crypto. Like, what's going on behind the scenes? Are we making a move? I mean, this is kind of wild to really think would be happening, but are we making some sort of move where this administration is thinking about potentially going back to backing the dollar with some sort of hard asset? I think that's going to be a little far-fetched because we've printed so much money. There's just so many damn dollar notes out there to be able to do that effectively at this point, and going back to some sort of, I think we passed that point of no return, but like there's a reason, there's a method to the madness. So why the United States is buying so much gold, and as big of a Bitcoin maxi as I am, I still believe that, holding some physical metals like gold and silver is never a bad idea. So I don't never, as much as Bitcoin, or I'm sorry, as much as gold bugs will shit on Bitcoin, I'll tell you that Bitcoin's better than gold, but I won't ever shit on gold and say you should never have any of it. So this is definitely good for gold bugs, definitely good for people that hold gold and silver. I'm very, very interested to see what happens in the future moving forward with this U.S. Extreme parabolic increase in gold, to see what happens with gold prices. I've said before, if Bitcoin did not exist, gold would be trading 10, 15,000 an ounce at this point. So there's a world where both of these assets exist. We'll see what happens.
So, a quick question, because I know we're running short on time. We got about 5 minutes to go. But my quick question, and maybe this is a topic for a different thing. How, in your opinion, based on what you see, is this administration truly behind Bitcoin, or is it lip service?
Say that again. What
I'm the problem with these presidents are they make these promises and then they don't
don't
really
trust?
follow
Oh,
through.
if you're asking me how I feel about
Do
this
you think that he's
administration,
really wow Bitcoin, or
no.
is it just he's just saying it because it was sounded good?
Nope. I got some intel again on the spaces this week. Somebody that was at Bitcoin conference 2024 behind the stage when Trump was about to take the stage, and somebody told him, "Say fire Gary Gensler." He's like, "Nobody knows who Gary Gensler is. Why would I say that? Nobody cares about Gary Gensler." And they're like, "Say fire Gary
I know
Gensler."
Gary Gensler
And
is.
he said, "Nobody knows who Gary Gensler is." And then when he went on stage and he said, "Fire Gary Gensler," and the crowd absolutely erupted, this person said that's when Trump was like, "There's something here."
Yeah.
So I think he took the stage, which is what I believed. He didn't give a great speech, and I've already talked about it on the podcast. RFK gave a way better speech. It was cool to see a former president or current president speaking at Bitcoin, all that stuff. But like, I don't think he really understood until he said "fire Gary Gensler," and to him that was nothing. And then he realized that the crowd was into that, and he's like, "There's something there."
Yeah.
He does what good grifters do. He says what people want to hear.
Right.
I don't trust any politicians.
Right.
I don't trust any governments or institutions. Um, with that being said, what Elon and Doge is doing is much more than government has done in the last probably 3 decades.
Sure.
I don't know what Elon's true intentions are. I don't know what Trump's true intentions are, but things are being uncovered that are unsavory. That
Right.
is definitely happening. And there are people highly incentivized and motivated to make sure that it doesn't happen for their own selfish interest. So both of those things can be true.
Right.
I don't trust humans. I don't trust anybody outside of my close circle of people. So
Right.
don't trust verify is a good way to live. It's just
and that's my thing. Like a lot of the, I don't have a lot of, because the problem for me is for an Elon Musk or whoever, there are a major conflict of interest for some of the things that Elon says he wants to do in certain departments. Other departments, sure, go ahead and audit those departments all you want. But my concern is of those types of things, and that's true with every president. And so I'm not just throwing one administration under the bus on this, because like you said, there's a ton of people in Washington that have vested interests in maintaining the status quo. So it's just a question of, but in specifically with me with Bitcoin, is it really like I want to like when will I know that, man, this administration truly was in it, or was it just like say the magic word and get people to believe that you're going to do some things? So until I see like, you know, that we've made Bitcoin part of the strategic reserve or whatever you call it, like I'm not convinced that. I think a lot of it's lip service, and I just don't. I think a lot of people are going to experience some buyer's remorse if we don't see him really showcase. Maybe RFK will be doing that. Maybe Elon will be doing that. I don't know if we're going to see it anytime soon. Or, at what point will people kind of realize it was just, yeah, we got played.
yeah. I don't have very high hopes. I'm just happy that we don't have the last administration because they were very, very awful for the industry. So a net neutral is a net positive to me.
True.
He doesn't have to do.
That's a good point too.
He doesn't have to do anything, and that's fine. So as long as he's not an enemy,
actively.
Yes, he's
restricting
not.
it.
He doesn't appear
Or
to be
trying
an
to regulate
enemy.
something that he shouldn't regulate.
I don't think he's an ally. All right, let me push back. Let me fall back on that. I don't think he's the ally he's portraying himself to be,
Okay.
but he's not an enemy.
Okay.
That's all I ask.
Okay.
Don't get in my way, and we're good.
And I think that's a really fair statement. I think part of the genius of Bitcoin is that it's not dependent on the government one way or the other. As long as they're not actively trying to destroy it, as long as they just kind of leave it, stay out of the way, that's kind of what Bitcoin wants. It doesn't really want government interference.
Yeah.
Or necessarily support.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap this thing up. Real quick before I wrap it up, I want to dedicate this podcast to my aunt who passed away a couple days ago, and to my mom. My mom watches every one of our podcasts, so I'm sure she'll watch this at some point. I just want to, tell my mom I love her, and she's going through a tough time. She lost her sister 2 days ago, so I want to dedicate this podcast to Rose Harvey, Rose Filardo, and as we always do, Again, thank you for watching this podcast. If you're watching this for the first time, the socials are going underneath. Please follow us, like this video, subscribe to this video, share it with friends. We do this every week. We're here at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, filming live. And again, don't trust, verify. Thanks, guys. See you next.